It is June 3rd of 2020, day 6, after the national security law has been approved by the Chinese Congress, Chinese Parliament. So the thing about the lifeboat refugee scheme for Hong Kongers proposed by Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom has been confirmed, kind of, by Prime Minister Boris Johnson. He said he's working on making the British national overseas passport holders and those eligible for applying such passports that can extend their period of stay from 6 months to 12 months in the UK. Then they will have they will be able to work. There will be methods leading towards a British citizenships. It also stated that he's working with other countries like Canada, the United States, Australia, New Zealand to ask them to do the same for Hong Kongers. So there's progress on the side of British nationals overseas passports, BNO passports. In the United States, there are two senators that has proposed for a Hong Kong Autonomy Act, which will sanctions or economically sanctions those who supports the national security law in Hong Kong, which includes private companies and personnel. So other than the sanctions that was approved by the U.S. Congress earlier this year, there are new policy of sanctions that has been proposed to Congress. In terms of Hong Kong news, there's nothing really much to it, but in the past few days there are lawsuits that has been dropped for the lawsuits that charges for the protesters who were found to possess weapons and were charged for it. One or two of them, the charges has been dropped. They were deemed innocent, and not because of the police dropped their charges, but rather the court ruled that they're innocent. So for some reason, after so many months, the law court finally has some justice. Not sure if it has anything to do with the sanctions. They were in place by the US, but it seems like it. After the national security law has been approved and the US sanctions were starting to set in stone, the lawyers and the judges, they behaved a little bit more. So that's kind of interesting. We'll see if it becomes a trend that finally the judges are not judging with a political standpoint, which a couple of the protester has been charged and sentenced to jail just because of they having a political standpoint. while they injured someone. On the other hand, people who have injured others but they are pro-China, they were not sentenced as heavy. They were not sentenced to jail as long as those who are protesting for democracy. So yeah, as a side note, the Hang Seng Index, which is the Hong Kong stock market, surprisingly, it didn't drop. It has been continuously rising for some reason. It might be people are trying to gather up the stocks, and someone's gonna take control of some companies. Not sure who, but somehow by doing so, they keep the stock market going up, or businessmen are still very optimistic about Hong Kong. That's also very interesting, and there's not much about Hong Kong for the last 2 to 3 days, except for these tiny little things. It has been quite quiet, except for they announcing the extended period of quarantine, of the social distancing. Yeah. So future updates, it might be shorter, it might have less informations, but if there's anything big, and since tomorrow is June the 4th, there might be something big. And we'll just have to see.